Hello everyone, and welcome to a new video on the channel. A bit of a different direction to what I usually do. This, of course, is a Let's Play channel. But cut a long story short, I moved out in April and lost any means of recording and made upload speeds a bit slow in here, so I've gone stream. So I thought I'd do a new type of video, which is basically lists my top. I'm not even going to say top 20 or top 25 or top 50 favourites because they'll vary on every list. This one, as you can see by the title, is the top 25 Game of Thrones characters. Now it's quite a bit, 25, but I think that is largely because the cast of Game of Thrones is so huge and there's so many monumentally epic characters that it needs to be quite a big list. Just going to say quickly before anything else, I know that a lot of these lists tend to be, particularly on YouTube, tend to be quick videos. For instance, Watch Mojo, they're a 10-minute video or something like that on a top 10. This isn't going to be like that. It's essentially going to be sort of a podcast, if you like. It's going to be about 45 to an hour in terms of minutes. Of course, you'll know better than me by the minute title, the minute tally. Sorry. So I know a lot of people don't necessarily want to see that. They will want to just see the list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a little note of the minutes where I start each number, 25 down to 1. And just click that hyperlink if you want to go on to that part of the video where I actually get to that number. Why do Game of Thrones? Basically, I think Game of Thrones is the greatest TV program there's ever been. I love the series. I got onto it a bit late. I only started watching Game of Thrones after series 4 finished. And before 5 had started, I'd watched the whole series and read all the books. And ever since then, I've probably watched every series at least 3 times, I'd say, every season, I should say. Except the latest one. That is 6, incidentally. This is important to say, as of now, I'm recording this in between episodes 3 and 4 of series 7. So if any new characters come out, if you're watching this after the whole series is finished, they, of course, won't be included. So the reason I'm doing this a bit longer is just because, as I said, the cast's so good that I don't think it gives due credit to the characters to just breeze through and summarize how good they are in a minute. I don't think that's really applicable. So, as I said, it's a bit of a longer one. And that is because I'm going to not just talk about the favourite character. One of the major things I'm going to do as well is talk about my favourite scene that they're in. So I've got my list here. I'll be consulting this from time to time. And basically give a bit of a run through of the characters' impact on the show as well. I think that's another important thing. Impact on the show, longevity on the show. It's not always going to be the be all and end all. I tend to go for quality over quantity. But certain characters on this list, have only been in it for a series and still get in. Others have been on it for the whole series and don't make the list. So just quickly before I start as well, I'm going to just mention some honourable mentions. Do that before one, unlike Watch Mojo, because I think a lot of people watching a video may well say, oh, my favourite's not in. Why is this character not in? Why is that character not in? Of course, this is preference. No list is true. No list is right. Although I will say, looking at my top 10, a lot of them will be pretty universally picked, particularly the top 3. I think the top 3 picks itself, really. Not necessarily in this order. People might have it in different orders. So I'll breeze through these names really quickly. Honourable mentions who didn't make the top 25, Jorah Mormont, Thoros of Myr, Lyanna Mormont, Robb Stark, Khal Drogo, Catelyn Stark, Maester Aemon Targaryen, Mance Rayder, Bran Stark, Viserys Targaryen, Sansa Stark, Ned Stark, Robert Baratheon, Melisandre and Renly Baratheon. Now I know what you're thinking, that's a hell of a lot of Starks. What have you got against House Stark? And the answer is nothing. I'm surprised myself. I thought that House Stark would be a lot better represented on this list, but I don't know. As I said, a lot of these characters are in it for the large part of the series, particularly Sansa and Bran. But weighing up their best scenes and their best lines and their best dialogue, I often think they're not the best character in the scene, and that shouldn't be. A lot of the people on the list I think are. So yeah, they're all good characters, granted. but just haven't made the cuts this time around. So, starting with the actual list then, guys. In at number 25, we have Yara Greyjoy. So, Yara Greyjoy, very good character. She's first came into it in the second series, I think, where Theon is sent by Robb Stark. Well, he volunteers to go and hopefully enlist Balon Greyjoy to Robb's war with the South. But of course, that doesn't go down. Balon turns him against the idea of the Starks needing his help and the union that Theon proposes. And he meets Yara along the way, who, of course, really grim first scene where they meet up, and he thinks she's just some random and puts his fingers where they shouldn't be. And she lets him know. I thought that was quite a good scene. She says she wants the feel of Theon without him knowing who she is, how he treats people who perceives to be beneath him. And of course, Yara's far from that. She's one of those characters in the show that, I think you can bracket a lot of them, particularly the female characters. You have the ladies, the ones who are brought up to get married off and play the political parts and don't really get involved in the fighting. People like Sansa, for instance, and Olenna. The good players of the game, not always, but most of the time, but they're not warriors. Yara's is definitely a warrior character, the likes of Arya's the same. The Wake, and Yara I think can actually potentially be both. I don't think she's necessarily the best leader for the Iron Islands, but she's certainly better than Euron and Theon, I think. She's not the stupidest character in this list, but she's not the smartest either, I'd say, although she's up there. But at the end of the day, I think Yara's on the list just because she's badass. There's no denying it. She has so many good scenes, and they're fun scenes to watch. Who can't love a Greyjoy who goes around sailing around the world, fucking men and women in every port, and flirting with Daenerys Targaryen and getting away with it? These are, I think, bonus points for you. So, as well as that, she's a good fighter. As I said, she's a warrior, but not every warrior is proven. But she is Ironborn. They respect her from the start of the series and up until the latest episode, where on topic, latest episode, she does actually get captured by Euron. So Yara in the future, is she going to be around too long? I'm not too sure. I'm really 50-50 on whether she'll survive or not. I mean, it's quite a feat to survive this long in Game of Thrones anyway. But certainly if Yara Greyjoy lives out the series, I think she'd be more of a worthy leader of the Iron Islands, say, than Euron and Theon, purely because she has a balance. She can inspire the people, but she won't be fucked with. Whereas Theon might well be fucked with, and not really have too much to say about it. Theon sort of regressed last episode. So Yara 25, the favourite scene of Yara I briefly alluded to is when she flirts with Daenerys. I thought that was a really good scene. She wins Daenerys over pretty much straight away. They say she flirts with her, obviously it's harmless. Daenerys isn't going to go there. But I think it shows how ballsy she is. As Ramsay once said, she has more balls than Theon ever had. Or bigger balls than Theon ever had, should I say. Well, Theon has none of either now, I think, anyway. But yeah, Yara 25. So moving on, in the 24, another female, very different one, is Margaery Tyrell. So Margaery, as I alluded to, you have different characters, strengths and weaknesses. She is, or was, a political player in the game. I say was, I should have said earlier, by the way, guys, spoiler alert for this video. If you got to this point, you probably already watched the series. Yes, yeah, Margaery, it's a shame what happened so really. I always liked the character. There are better characters, which is why she's far down on this list, but except with Yara, she's done well to make this list. I think Margaery's one of the most considering whether to put her on or not. But I think she plays the game well, or played the game well. She charms the people, basically. She's very different to Joffrey, who she marries. Her second husband, she has three in the series, of course. Renly, Joffrey, and Tommen, the three Baratheons. And she wins them all over in different ways, and that's what I liked about Margaery. She was savvy enough, and she'd been taught well, clearly, by Olenna, to bend three very different people to her will, and she's not a complete saint, you know. Later on in the series, she says, it's when the High Sparrow sort of brings it down a notch. I was helping these people out, but I did it with an agenda in mind. I wanted the people to love me, to become the queen and gain support, basically, for when she does. When she, in her mind, did become the queen. Of course, that never happened. Cersei got in the way. But yeah, she was a beautiful woman, Natalie Dormer. I love Natalie Dormer. She's hot as hell. She's probably the hottest woman in this show, actually. But as well as that, she didn't fuck about. When she was annoyed, she did make it known, and I think she wrecked Cersei a bit. She probably was outmaneuvering Cersei. In the end, Cersei just had the capability to do what she did, whereas Marjorie probably didn't, and that's why Marjorie isn't here anymore and Cersei is. So sort of a reference to that again. Marjorie's favourite scene for me was when she just completely roasts Cersei Lannister. It's seen, I think, in series 5, perhaps, maybe 6, where she's there with her handmaids. I think it is series 6, actually. I think it's short-haired Cersei. Marjorie's with her handmaids and basically says to Cersei, oh, would you like some wine? It's a bit early in the morning for us, but I'm sure it's not too early for you. Obviously alluding to the fact that, you know, has no one ever acknowledged this? No one else. Every scene Cersei Lannister seems to be in until this later series, she has a glass of wine, so yeah, she's a bit of an alky. And it was just sort of a bit of a power play. The problem with Marjorie is the prophecy that was made to Cersei earlier on the series, where she was warned that a younger, more beautiful queen would replace her and cast her out. Of course, that looks like to me Daenerys Targaryen, but still be Sansa Stark, who knows? But Cersei gets in her mind that it's Marjorie, so she ends up going. But I do like the scene where Marjorie does wreck her. At least she has that. So number 23, another female. It's Ygritte. Ygritte is the first say royal, they're effectively ladies, the other ones. She's a wildling, of course, in the series, who ends up in a relationship with Jon Snow, and then they end up enemies, etc. But she was just good enough character to stand out on her own, even when Jon left, and it was the first time Ygritte was seen in the series without Jon. At midway point in series, well, it may even be the end of series 3 this happened. Yeah, Ygritte still had plenty of good scenes, but of course the large bulk of her best scenes are with Jon Snow. I think the chemistry I had was fantastic. I believe Kit Harington and Rose Leslie are dating in real life, I think, or certainly were at the time of recording their scenes they did together. And I think it did show. Like I said, they got on like House on Fire, and the difference and the contrast of Ygritte to the girls that Jon Snow grew up with, which you allude to once he won her over in his eyes. She's again another warrior character. She comes out with some of the best insults, I think, in the series. Olenna Tyrell, still the queen of that, the queen of Taunt, to call it, as Cersei called her. But Ygritte comes out with some others, and basically with Ygritte, I think it was always likely she was going to die. I don't think she was ever going to survive. Could she ever get with Jon Snow for good? No, Jon Snow really needs a queen. It looks like that might be Daenerys one day. So it was sort of inevitable, but it's still a sad scene when she did die. But it was acted to perfection. And thankfully for Ygritte, Jon Snow gets revenge on Ollie in the end. So my favourite scene for Ygritte is probably the windmill scene. I think there are a few good contenders and honourable mentions. The cave scene was one that came to mind first and foremost, but I think that's a bit too cliche. And you know, sex scenes are often new on Thrones. There's been plenty of them. That probably is the most memorable one. But I think the scene that identifies and encapsulates Ygritte most for me is the windmill scene, where she she sees it. She's in North of the Wall for the first time. She's like to Jon, "Is that a palace or something?" He's like, "No, it's a windmill." And she's speculating on how many men it took to build that. I thought it was a really nice, sort of funny contrast to the wildling life that she's accustomed to, and the life of Jon Snow, where he grew up in Winterfell. And just other lords and ladies in the north, you know, what would you think if you went to a place that is beyond the wall and is so completely different? You would be staggered. and that was Hewitt's reaction. On to number 22, guys. It's Theon Greyjoy. So second Greyjoy in the list, and not the last. I think you know he's coming too. But Theon is very, very good character. I actually think of all the series, Theon has probably had the most character development. Actually, it's a hard call because there are a lot of characters like that. And there's another one springs to mind straight away who comes on the list later on. But Theon has been on a roller coaster ride for sure. He starts the series as a ward of House Stark. He'd been taken as basically revenge to the Greyjoy rebellion of 9 years prior. Robert orders Balon's youngest son to go to House Stark, and he's treated well by House Stark, but he's always felt like he's an insider, and I think his character's so fascinating because of that. Later series, when he does go back to Pike and is basically rebuffed and told that he's not paid the iron price for anything he's got. They've turned him into a wolf. He feels left out then because I emphasised it from so much there in terms of Alfie Allen played it so well. He didn't feel like he really had one family there, but then he didn't feel like he had another family there. He was sort of caught in between two places, and I think it was easy to hate Theon at that point when he turns on House Stark and rips, he burns up the letter sent to Robb to warn ahead of the invasion. Like I said, Alfie Allen did a great job of that and showed his turmoil inside. Of course, he then goes on to take Winterfell, and for that time, I think Theon's one of the biggest villains in Series 2. He kills Roderick Cassel. He orders Dagmar to burn the two young kids who are Bran and Stark, according to the Greyjoys. Of course, that's not the case. Did I say Bran and Stark? It's Bran and Rickon Stark. But yes, later on in the series, of course, he regresses and becomes a different character in Reek. I mean, he is Theon, but he's not really. He does become Reek. And that is a big, big part of his character development as well. Ramsay takes him and essentially strips him bare of everything that he was. Theon was always a lord, so he lived a sheltered life and a luxurious life. And Reek is just like a dog that's sort of been neutered. I mean, he essentially is. He was neutered, but you know what I mean? He's got that puppy dog look about him. He doesn't really go towards danger. He avoids it, and he's just not really what Theon once was. So when he's playing this sort of transformation and becoming Greek and staying as Reek for 2 or 3 seasons, I think he then won people over. I think people then sympathise with Theon again. Particularly after a scene I'm going to mention is my favourite one. Then in later series, he sort of did show signs of becoming Theon again. You know, he helped save Sansa. He has his wits about him enough to do that, and he doesn't comply with House Bolton all the way because he does eventually betray them. But later series, series 7 this is, and 6, you're thinking, alright, maybe he is fully Theon now. He's come back to the Iron Islands, he's going to help his family. Yoros taken him in. Balon obviously was already dead. Maybe now this is the redemption of Theon full circle. But then the latest episode, it was episode 2 of series 7. Euron, of course, captures Yara and says, "Come and get her," and then he bitches out essentially. He completely pussies out. He jumps off the ship and has flashbacks when he sees the Euron's crew cutting the tongues of the guys like they did on the ship to Silence. And he essentially abandons Yara, and he got a lot of hate for that, I think, or certainly assumed so online. But I quite like that. I think that's more realistic. That Theon isn't just Reek for loads of years, then all of a sudden changes like that. I say like that, but essentially over the course of maybe a year or so in this story. I think it's more realistic that he was Reek for so long, and he was essentially like Pavlovian condition. He was taught to basically feel pain if he so much as answers back. I think that was Theon's rollercoaster ride sort of encapsulated, and as of now, I still think, and the future I still think Theon will come good. I think he will redeem himself. He may well rescue Yara, or he may well kill Euron, or just end up ruling the Iron Islands anyway, and that will probably be a good redemption for Theon. Who knows? He might fight against the Walkers as well. But I certainly think he's one of the best actors on the show, Alfie Allen, and Theon is one of the most fascinating characters, just because of this multifaceted aspect to his character, the different characters within Reek and Theon, and essentially he's played about 3-4 different characters, because Theon, of course, early on the series is very different to what he is now. So yeah, Theon is number 22. Of course, it is my favourite scene in Theon's, sums it all up really. It's when Ramsay pretends to save him from, of course, he's in a Dreadfort at that point, he doesn't know that. Ramsay lets him go, then sends some men after him, then kills them and takes him back. And it's when they're in the dungeons of the Dreadfort and Ramsay's opening the gate where Theon says, "I killed them boys, that was me, what have I become, essentially. I lost my real father at King's Landing. I made a choice and I chose wrong." And I love that scene. I think that was probably the moment where I started thinking, yeah, I like Theon again. I want him to prosper and survive. Well, maybe not prosper, because he does need some punishment, which he does get in kind, but at least to survive. And yeah, it's just a moment that I think was the defining moment of Theon's character for me. So on to number 21, and we have Tormund Giantsbane. So Tormund is 100% a warrior character, and he is a badass character. He is an absolute bad man in this series. Jon first meets him when he goes into the camp of the wildlings to meet the king beyond the wall, and he assumes it's Tormund. And I can sort of see why. I mean, Tormund, once you get to know his character, it's not really much of a diplomat. He's just the type of character who'll throw an axe and ask questions later, basically. He'll kill you then without thought, really. Whereas Mance was a bit more of a diplomat and a bit more of a pragmatist. But, he looks like a king. He looks like a tough son of a bitch, which he is. And I think that's what throws Jon off. He has numerous quality scenes, particularly with Jon, with Ygritte, with Mance, and later on with Brienne. They seem to be having a bit of a say flirtation. It's sort of a one-way street, really. Yeah, Brienne wants Jaime, but Tormund wants Brienne. So that's a possible matchup later on for Tormund. I think that would be a good matchup because they're both warriors. But as well, I find Tormund to actually be, I don't know if this is intentional or not, he's just a funny character. He is one of the funnier characters in the series. There are a lot of characters that just aren't funny at all. But Tormund certainly isn't one of them. I love his dialogue, and it's largely what the favourite scene for Tormund is for me. Is a scene like this. It's when the Fens approach him and Ygritte. I think they're preparing the march on the wall at that point. And it's not so much a scene, it's just a quote that sums up Tormund Giantsbane for me. "I fucking hate Fens." And the Fen guy comes up, and of course, it's a shame they never got to fight. I think it was building up to that, and it never happens, of course, because Jon kills the Fen with the hammer. But yeah, that's my favourite Tormund scene for sure. So inside the top 20 now, and I'm wary of the time. I might actually split this video into two, guys, because it is 24 minutes in, so we'll see. But on to number 20, Euron Greyjoy. So it's the third and final Greyjoy on my list. Pretty far down Euron, considering how badass he is. And he is a very good character. Again, it's very similar to Tormund, actually. He's another funny character. The only reason he's this far down is because he's not been into that much. Like I said, it's not the be-all and end-all. Certain quality scenes. There's a character I'm particularly looking at now who's only in it for one series, and he's higher up. You probably know who he is already if you're onto the show. But Euron, despite only being in it for a season, has had enough good scenes, I think, to make it. He is not a patch And I mean this with all due respect to Pilo Asbæk, because I think he plays him fantastically. He's not a patch on the Euron of the books. Euron in the books is an absolute maniac. A sadistic, psychopathic, horrific, ominous, just presence. Crow's eye, he is. And I think he's threatening to become one of the biggest villains in the books and the show. In the show, certainly, Pilo Asbæk, I know, recently has said that you think Ramsay and Joffrey are bad, wait till you get a hold of this kind of thing. And it's threatening it. But I think they've put maybe a tad too much humour into him. Don't get me wrong, that's not bad. And I think it is a manic humour, which makes you think, oh, shit, this guy's one crazy son of a bitch. But I think he's yet to do anything truly horrific. Although I'd say this, I think it's going to come. I think he will, I don't know, he'll torture Ellaria, or he'll torture Yara, or he'll do unspeakable things to plenty of people, or he'll betray people and this and that, and he just doesn't give a shit. He's entirely in it for himself. The residents of Pike who elected him are gonna regret this later on in the series, mark my words. And I think he justifies the tag of being a madman, really, based on the scenes that we've seen so far. He kills Balon without a second thought, really. I mean, it was coming for Balon, but it's his brother at the end of the day. Straight away, you're thinking this character's one to watch. He doesn't care. Anyone who gets in his way, he'll dispose of. And it's shown to be the case so far. I think the scenes with Cersei were fantastic, particularly with Jaime, where he's winding him up. They were funny scenes, to be fair. The scenes with Cersei sort of alluded to the fact that they will be king and queen. I'm not too sure whether that will happen. I think Cersei will even hang him, or one of them will betray the other before this goes down. It's just a case of which one will do it to which. Whoever gets in first, I think, because they're both despicable characters. So the favourite scene for Euron sums up his badassery so far, really, I think, is, I think, the most recent on the list. The most recent by one. It's Series 7, Episode 2, where Euron takes down the Yara and Theon Greyjoy fleet. Of course, he has his own Greyjoy fleet, which is ridiculous compared to the other one. You see an amazing scene. They're on their boat. Yara's about to bang Ellaria. Then, boom, the whole thing shakes, and Euron, ultimate cockblock, comes in. And his ship is just massive. It dwarfs their one and completely cuts through it. They look up, and the hull is above the whole thing of their whole ship. And he comes down on this, I didn't say plank, I don't know what the hell it is. It's a walkway, essentially. And it lands on some guy's head, and Euron comes in, shot of Euron with his sword, screaming like a maniac. And he boards the ship and fucks shit up. I think that sums up Euron for me, and was just such a good scene. He does only make it to 20 though. So in N19, we have Brienne at top. So Brienne, like Tormund mentioned before, is warrior. Very good character, one of the few truly good characters in the series, I think. And I say truly good, she's obviously done bad things, she's killed a lot of people, but most of them deserved it, and all she really wants to do is save, well, it's first it's Renly, then it's Catelyn, now it's Sansa. I think the reason she's so far down the list is just because, I don't know, I don't think it doesn't have to necessarily be a negative on Brienne's part. I just think other characters have done more, or I like them more, necessarily. Not every scene or plot path Brienne's been on so far has been my favourite of the episode, or even my second favourite, for instance. It's not to say she's not a good character. It's just, when I think of memorable moments of the series, I don't automatically think of Brienne. There are still plenty of good scenes with Brienne, though. Scenes with Jaime Lannister, Podrick, certainly. Scenes with Catelyn and Sansa and Littlefinger as well, I think, are very good. Where's she going to go in the series? I think Brienne will probably make it. I think she's tough enough. And I think certainly the writers seem to like her enough to keep her around for quite a long time. Is she a game changer in a series? Not really. She just tends to be a bodyguard, essentially. but she's, like I said, a good enough character and has enough badass scenes and is a strong enough fighter to make this list, I think. My favourite scene for Brienne is, fight against the Hound. That is arguably the best single fight in the series, actually, I'd say. It sort of speaks for itself. It's brutal. It's pretty gory in a way. You know, she bites his ear off. He literally confronts her at one point. And all the while, Arya and Podrick are watching, like, what the fuck is going on here? This is like Clash of the Titans. And at the end of the day, if anyone can take down the Hound, they deserve to be a part of this list. She nearly kills the Hound, of course. We think he's dead, but he turns up later in the series. However, it just showed Brienne's skill as a fighter, and certainly that's why she's made this list. So, in at number 18, surprised it's this far down, because I'll say this is my favourite character in the books, probably, and not one people will think of. It's Stannis Baratheon. Stannis the Manus. So, why do I love Stannis? What's not to love about Stannis? And he's not a warm character, particularly, although he shows signs of it, particularly with Shireen. I wouldn't necessarily say Melisandre. I think he does buy into Melisandre. I wouldn't say he loves her per se. I think the only person he does truly love is Shireen. But certainly he seems to tolerate Melisandre. But largely to most other people, he's just like a dick on the face of it. But the reason I love Stannis is not just because I do actually consider him to be the true claimant to the throne who was wronged. That's a dubious question in itself, a debatable one, I should say. Should it be Jon Snow if he was legitimate? Should it be Viserys? Should it be Daenerys? Who knows? But in my opinion, it probably should have been Stannis. Robert dies and there's no true-born children. Should move to his next oldest brother. And I think that's a large fuel to the fire for Stannis, why he is such a relentless bastard, basically, in chasing his throne. He will do anything, even if it's at a cost. I say he'll do anything, not in the terms of Jaime Lannister early series. I think everything Stannis does, he thinks is with the greater good in mind. You know, he'll kill a lot of people on Blackwater. He sacrifices Shireen, which tears him up, and you know, there's the bit where he says to him, "I'm sorry for what I have to do," essentially. But he does it because he thinks one child dying will save 10,000, potentially in wars to come. And I think that's why I like Stannis. You know, he is a character who's quite rare in that he does stuff for the kingdom rather than himself. A bit like Varys. He's also, I think, unintentionally one of the funniest characters in the series, Stannis. Of course, there's grammatical corrections. A scene he does twice, I think, are really good. With Davos, and yeah, he has a bit like that with Renly as well. He has a bit of a one-on-one with Renly, I think, available sparring. It's quite good as well. The Manus in the books is described as iron. He can't be bent, he can't be broke. He is just, I think it sums him up perfectly, you know, the iron will of Stannis. And of all the characters in the series, I think another reason why I like him is probably the least appreciated in terms of the Greyjoy Rebellion. He smashed the Greyjoy fleet, and Robert gives him nothing, and he gives Renly Storm's End, which Stannis broods on and alludes to one scene to Davos. I think he's bitter about that. So I think he is a very embittered man to a degree. In scenes that comes out more than in other scenes, but I think it's understandable. And truly, would he have been a good ruler? No, I don't think so. What is it Varys says? Westeros needs someone stronger than Tommen, but gentler than Stannis, or softer than Stannis, something like that. And I think that is his problem. He would have been a king that people wouldn't have fucked about with, but wouldn't really have inspired the love of the small folk. And maybe that was his undoing. Well, of course, his undoing was trusting Melisandre, which is a fatal mistake, a silly mistake for a man like Stannis to do. But I still think his death scene was a bit of a shit one, really. You know, book Stannis, I hope doesn't go that way, so I think that's just bullshit. Killed by Brienne, there's no shame in that, but basically like decimated by the Boltons because infamous show law, 20 good men, so 20 good men, whoever he is, comes in and just like smashes through his camp. And I don't know, I think, to summarise, I think Stannis went out for whimper, and I think he deserved better than that. He was a fierce general, one of the most feared, and one of the best minds for war in the whole series, and basically he's outsmarted by Locke Stark or Ramsay Bolt. So yeah, Stannis is 18. The favourite team I have of Stannis is there are a few honourable mentions. I came close to doing a scene with Shireen where she says something like, "Oh, don't you love me?" And he says this anecdote about how when she had grayscale, he went and found every apothecary and every maester and tried to heal her. Then he hugs her, and I think it's a rare time where Stannis sort of lets his walls down and becomes a bit more human than he really is, or certainly than he shows. However, I did go for seeing, say, I think really doesn't calculate Stannis. It's a theme for these favourite teams for me. It's when he's in his throne room, the first scene of Stannis, I think, and they're saying to him, when you make peace with Robb Stark, why don't you team up against the Lannisters and Renly with Robb? And I remember at that point watching I hadn't read the books by series 2. I'd been watching the scene and I thought, oh yeah, that's a great idea. We'll go with them, and them two will fuck the other two up. Stannis the Manus doesn't give us two shits though. He can do it by himself. He turns around and says, no, I don't really need him. Any usurper who takes part of my kingdom, I don't care for. They'll bend the knee or destroy them, all of these people. And I think that's a quote that sums up Stannis for me, and I think of most. They'll bend the knee or I destroy them. Pretty badass. So the Manus is at 18. Moving on to 17 is another Baratheon. It's the last of the list, actually. It's Joffrey Baratheon. The first, let's consult this again. No, Euron's there, I suppose. So I'd say he's the second truly evil character in the list. Joffrey is the main villain of the first 4 series, and he's brilliantly played by Jack Gleeson. And I was shocked to learn that apparently Jack Gleeson had never acted before this series. Well, I think he's amazing in this. He really is. He plays him, he's arrogant, he's pampered, he's spoiled, he's hypocritical. He doesn't show any real talent. I think he only ever shows aptitude in the role of king once. And ironically, it's a scene where no one else does. When he calls Stannis up to the throne room and says basically like, well, what are we doing about Daenerys? We know she's there with dragons. Why don't we go and fuck her up? Obviously, people will be rooting for Daenerys against Joffrey for sure. But from a king's perspective, that was good thinking, really. And it's true. True to form now, might have saved his mother. But every other scene he's in with with him as the king, even as the prince, actually, he's just a son of a bitch. He lies, he fucks people over. He doesn't necessarily understand when people are trying to help him or what's good for, political play. Like Tyrion, for instance, when he threatens to go and give Stannis says a red smile. And before that scene, I think he says, Robb Stark and the North are on their knees. Why don't we go and take them out now? And Tyrion's just like, internal face palm. So's Varys, mate, we're like preparing for the siege here. You fucking messing up, essentially. It just shows how unprepared he was for the role, and the sense of entitlement he gave Joffrey, and then the downright cruelty he did. His perspective was that as king, I can do whatever I want. No one can get in my way. And in the end, he does get his comeuppance, deservedly so, and it is a pretty horrible death. So he seems slowly choked to death from poison, the stronger. But, probably on the most satisfying deaths on Game of Thrones, actually. So Joffrey was wonderfully evil in his role. That's why he makes the list. My favourite scene for Joffrey, I briefly alluded to it. It's just after he says, I'll give my uncle a red smile to riding out to meet you. It's actually not a line Joffrey says, it's a scene involving him though, and at his expense, when Tyrion turns to Varys when Joffrey walks off and just goes, imagine Stannis' terror. I love that scene, man, because you picture it, you think Joffrey goes out take on Stannis, he'll get absolutely wrecked. And if only we could have seen that. But in the end, his death was actually probably more satisfying. In at number 16, guys, and before I start this, I will say I think I will cap it from 25 to 15 this video. It is going on for a while. It's a long sit if we finish it. Then I'll probably do 15 till 5, a separate video. Well, 15 till 6, separate video. Then the top 5, another separate video, incidentally. So this is the penultimate one on this list, and it is the Hound. The Hound is a character, you know, first you love him, first you hate him. Well, I should say first you hate him, then you love him, then you hate him, then you love him, then you hate him, then you love him. And you don't really know what way you're going to go in the end with the Hound. As of now, I think he's fully redeemed himself, I'd say. Series 7, of course, this is. At the start of the series, he does bad things. He's employed by Joffrey as his bodyguard, essentially. But he does go by a code, and he does say sometimes, you know, I was following orders, and you're thinking, that is true, but, you know, you could say about the Nazis, you knew what you were doing when you signed up for this. Only following orders isn't a sufficient excuse. I think the real measure of his character is when he's by himself, and he's still a dick. So you're thinking, yeah, he is a bit hateful, he is a bit of a villainous character. But then at the same time, he looks after Arya, for his own means, of course. He plans to sell Arya, but I do still think he has time for her, and he gets close to her. You know, there are times when he could kill Arya, he takes a sword off her, and he still doesn't kill her. He keeps her around with him for even after what's her name? They found out that Lysa is dead. So, you know, he's probably had some really solid character development more than most on this list, actually, the Hound. The latest series, when he finds the people that he kills, I think is the moment that changes it for me, you know. The big change for the Hound is earlier, of course, when Brienne thinks she's killed him, and they find the Hound, a wounded Hound. I was going to say the Brotherhood. I don't even know what they are. They're like a little community led by the wonderful Ian McShane, who acts the guy. And the Hound, from that point onwards, is a good guy, essentially. And this series, what I love about him is when he meets the Brotherhood, particularly Thoros and Beric, he still pretends to be the Hound that was. I mean, I say pretends to be. He is still grumpy, he's still surly. He's not a character I don't think who's ever smiled on the series. But when he finds the two people who he'd robbed earlier on in the series with Arya, series 4, he finds their bodies and shows no sign of emotion towards them. But then later on in the night, he buries them. And I think that scene just does show the development of the Hound and how, at the end of the day, he has good inside. And unlike the Mountain, he is going to be a good character, and he will come good for the series and fight for something true in the end, I think. My favourite scene of the Hound is, it's just a quote. Well, it is a scene, obviously, but the quote sums up the scene. Fuck the king, he says to Joffrey when he fucks off the Battle of Blackwater. You see someone flaming, of course, that takes him back to when the Mountain scalded him against the fire as a young boy, which probably shaped the man, actually. Probably made the Hound so surly and outwardly emotionless. But yeah, that scene, he's a villain at the time when he says fuck the king, but you can't help but love him after that scene. Or certainly during that scene, because you see Joffrey's face just fall like, oh shit, my last Special Lieutenant's like fucking me off. What's going on here? In fact, I think it's Tyrion who says this too. Apologies. But at the end of the day, I think that's like top 10 quote of the series for me, fuck the king. So last one of the video, guys, so we're moving on to number 15 now. And it's Guy the Hound on this 4, actually. That would have been a good scene. It's Bronn. Bronn was in it in the series 1, I think. He meets... he's in the pub, of course, and is one of the people that Catelyn Stark calls upon to arrest Tyrion. Despite being a Riverlands, he's not really aligned to anyone at the start. He's a sellsword and a badass one at that. He's a great fighter, Bronn. Of all the characters in the series, if you said a top 10 of people who've killed the most, I imagine Bronn would be on that top 10 for sure. He takes Tyrion's defense, and you know, everyone likes Tyrion. I think everyone was endeared towards Bronn after that scene because he's defending a character that we know is. Do we know at that point? I think certainly we suspect that he's innocent, Tyrion, of the attempted murder or order and attempted murder of Bran. So you're watching an innocent man go, and no one steps up. Then Bran does, and his fortunes change from then. He becomes obviously a Lannister employee, I'd say, for want of a better word. He guards Tyrion, and I think their relationship in the series, their friendship, is one of the best in it. I think it humanised Bronn a bit more. He's just sort of a killer machine at the start. But he's always funny. He's shown genuine love for Tyrion and like fondness of him. He asks about him to Jaime and says he wishes he could help him when Tyrion faces trial by combat later on in the series. And he's also had some great teams with Jaime, so I suppose he's sort of aligned with the Lannisters now, bro. He doesn't have to fight for them, but he does. Presumably because Lannisters always pay their debt. But, I think with Bronn, I still wouldn't be surprised if he dies. I think it is more likely. A character like that, he does ruffle a lot of feathers. And, even when he was Lord Commander of the, I can't even think of the word now, it's not even Lord Commander's Night Watch, isn't it? I don't know, the guy who's the head of the King's Defence, essentially, he was that guy, the white coat. Even when he was that, he wasn't really like a sellout, he was true to himself, but he still ruffled a lot of feathers. And I think he is the type of guy, like the Hound, like Tormund, who will just go swinging with blades before they try and think of another better way out, essentially. So I imagine Bronn will be in the fight with the White Walkers at the end. I just think he will die in that battle. So it will be a shame to see him go, but he's had plenty of good scenes until then. Bronn, one of the funniest characters, of course. My favourite scene is one that was alluded to in the very last episode I watched, so episode 327, of course. Tyrion says, as a great friend of mine once said, give me 10 good men and I'll impregnate the bitch. Which, of course, Bronn says about the Eyrie, the impregnable fortress of House Arryn. They approach it and Bronn says that, and straight away I was like, oh, this character's so good, man. He's like, zero fear. But as I said, zero fear is probably the reason he's going to die. However, Bronn, for scenes like that, easily walked onto my list in at number 50. So yeah, that's it for this one, guys. Like I said, essentially it was a podcast of sorts. It wasn't a quick list. I didn't expect to take this long though. Although thinking about it, of course, 3 minutes per name is probably reasonable to summarise the best scenes and what I think adds to their characters. I know it'll take longer to do other characters when I get further down the list, so that's why I'm cutting this one short. I'll make a playlist of the 3 videos, so please check the others out if possible. I hope you enjoyed it. Of course, leave comments below if you agree with certain characters following, you disagree with others, anything I got wrong in terms of the facts I was thrown out of the series, or anything that could have been added, or your interpretation of this character might be different to mine, or just simply your own top 10, 15, 25. Let us know. I'll be interested to hear it. So the next video will pretty much be up sharpish. Not too sure when I'll post this, but I'm going to record all 3 of these and pretty much back to back. So yes, we will go from, let me see, 14 down to 6 next video. Then of course, as I said, the top 5 I think will be its own separate video. So thanks for tuning in. If you're still knocking about, you're still here, fair play, you're a trooper. Love you guys. And next video we shall find out more of my favourite Game of Thrones characters.